It's that time of year, and if you haven't already planned your year or your client calendar, let's plan with me so you can get it done. That way, when you get your next new lead or potential client, you know exactly when to tell them that you're available for a project. I will make sure to link that freebie below so you can go grab your copy. It is free because I want you to be able to be organized so that you do not have the back and forth with your clients when you're on that call and they ask you, okay, so when can we book this thing? And you're like, I don't know. I haven't set that up yet. Like, don't be that person. Before we dive into that, because I'm going to share my screen and show you my actual planning process in Notion. If we haven't met before, my name is Caitlin. I run Launch the Damn Thing. I am a Squarespace educator and web designer. I've been in the graphic design industry since 2006, so I know a few things, a thing or five, that I'm happy to share with you in videos like these. So with that said, let's hop in and plan our year together. So I've been using Notion a little bit more than ClickUp lately. I decided this year to put my project calendar back into Notion, and I've tweaked it a little bit since I initially released the project planner thing. So I'm going to walk you through that as if we are planning our year together using this template. So first thing first, there are 3 different spots within this template. The first one is the database that can potentially hold all of your client data, sort of like an address book. So if we rename this address book to help you, maybe that helps. If you also rename the title of this database address book, that will probably also help. So do that. I have some example clients in here, fake clients, obviously. And they're meant to be funny, so take them with a grain of salt. If you fill this information in manually or you connect a Zap to map in, for example, new lead inquiries from Dubsado via Zapier or something into this Notion database, that could be something you could do. It could bring in first name, last name, email, phone number, address, stuff like that. Anything that has a field in a form that they have filled out. So that could also include the invoice amount that they paid and those things like that. So think about how you can bring in information potentially in an automated way so that you have less manual labor, right, for this. Save yourself some time. The second piece to this would be the project calendar template, which is the new version of what was available before. I have 3 different sections to this database. So we have a calendar view, a table or spreadsheet view, and each service type is grouped so that you can add them easily and quickly this way, where they will be already assigned as a custom project. You can duplicate these and they stay within their own lane, essentially. And then we also have a list for closings, and it's filtering out anything that does not have the information for this. So the filter here is name contains closed. So as long as your title for the entry in the database says closed for whatever, it'll show up here. So we have, let's go back and recap. So we have a client address book template. We have a project calendar. This contains the information that we can then give to our client. And then we also have a public calendar. Then this would be the version that we show other people. So this is a blank page with availability notes for them to understand how to use this page if they need it. And then an inline database that is linked to the project calendar I just showed you. So it's containing the same information, but it's showing up in a different place so that we can share a public link to this one instead of the private one that we're actually using ourselves. So I'll show you how all this comes together. Hang tight. All right, so let's go ahead and start planning our year. Let's say that the first project of the year, surprise, surprise, is booked by Taylor Swift. Now we have what's called a relation property, and it's linked to our client address book. So all we have to do is add a new entry. We'll call it 2-week website. And it's going to be an upcoming project. This one is going to be, so if that one ends on the 12th, maybe we want to start the next one on the 22nd. And then if we include an end date, we can end the project on the 2nd of February. We'll say this one is available and this one is booked. The price range for this will be 1,5. and $3,000,000. And let's change this to a 3-week website. There we go. Okay, and so let's say we have someone interested in this one. We're going to say Stevie is interested in this one. Now, if we go back to our address book, and I put a link to that right here, you may or may not have to relink this to your own version if you make a copy of this template. So let's hop back to our client database. One thing that you'll notice is that this is a roll-up field. So what's happening in this? It's connected to dates booked, which is our project calendar database, and it's pulling the name, which happens to be the type of project or the name of the project that they've booked. What happens is the address book entry over here is going to auto-populate the thing that they booked. Oh. And the cool piece to this is that if this page remains unpublished, and for this tutorial, it has to be in order for me to show you what comes next. But I'll have to republish it so you can actually access this part of the template for the free template. Anyway, so if it remains unpublished and I'm the only person that has access to it, so if I'm the only person in my Notion account, or if I've only given access to myself and maybe a team member, a virtual assistant or something, the version that we share with the public, which could be this will only show the information it's allowed to see. So I can see who booked this, right? Because it knows I'm logged in as me, the workspace owner. But if we open the calendar in a incognito window where it does not know that I'm logged in, and this is the public view of this spreadsheet, database, whatever. If we click on that same entry and we look, that is going to be empty, which means you will be able to say so-and-so has booked this very specific project and for this specific amount, but you can keep that information contained to what you see when you're in your own Notion account and leave it out of the public version that your potential clients are looking at when they are picking dates. So that, I think, is really cool, and I'm pretty proud of myself for figuring that out, because that's a little bit hard to absorb, right? So that was the first piece that made this a little bit different than the one or version I was using before. I do have a Zap that brings in new client information into Notion, so I don't have to keep this database updated. And I do have a custom field that will map in what they told me their time zone is, and it will come through however they write it, because it's just a text field. So if they put GMT or something, like that's what it's going to say here versus, London or Eastern or whatever. So anyway, I also have a section up here that has a time zone converter because I thought that might be useful for the time zone thing, especially as you start to collect more clients and you have other people that you're working with and you forget what time it is in Pacific time or Brisbane or London or Italy or whatever. I find that that's something that I constantly have to check. So I figured might as well try to see if I can embed it. And lo and behold, you actually can. This is one of my favorite little simple time zone converters too. So you have access to the time zone converter, the address book, that whole project calendar. If you don't want to do it that way, you can click on this and turn into page and then put it somewhere else in your Notion. So they can actually be separate if you want them to be, but it might actually be useful for you to have even potentially the calendar on the top and then your clients on the bottom. So let's go ahead and plan out the rest of the year with this system. By the way, this template is set to show a price minimum and maximum because in the calendar view, what we're actually showing here is a formula that is it's telling people that text plus whatever the value is for this property for this row, and the same thing for this property in this row. So basically it's saying it's putting the text in, price range : space, and it's filling in whatever this number is for this particular entry. Then it's adding space to space, and then it's filling in this value for whatever that is in that entry. So this is something you will not have to mess with as long as you put in the price minimum and maximum. However, you can't format them to look like whatever your currency is. If they're in a number, let's change it from a text field to a number field, you can tell it to show, for example, in US dollars, right? So it'll look correct, but what happens is it loses the formatting over here. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not familiar enough with formulas in Notion to be able to also add the formatting here the way that I want. If you are, great, do it. That will solve your problem. The downside to using text fields here so that it will look attractive over here is that you can't calculate those values. So if we go back to our spreadsheet, if this is a number, we can calculate it, but if it's a text property that is displaying a number, we cannot calculate the sum of this column. We can count them, but that's only going to count the number of rows. That's not going to add up all of the values in each one. So keep that in mind. Make sure you select the option that works the best with the way that you want this to work. If that's more important to you than making the figure look attractive or recognizable, then change it to a number so you can actually sum this, because it would be good information to know what your range is for everything that you book. So just keep that in mind. I hope I'm making sense here. Hopefully you're following along with me and I'm not losing anybody. Okay, so let's go back to the projects and let's add a few more. Let's say we want to do one big project per month, so we need 12 of these. So if we do both of these, let's see if we can duplicate them. We sure can. Okay, so now let's change the dates. Let's go back to the calendar view. Let's open this in a new window. When you expand the database into its own like full screen view, you actually have a long scroll calendar access, as opposed to the inline view, which I was just on, which kind of stops at the bottom of the month. This makes it easier to drag events around. So let's say we want to alternate between 3-week projects and 2-week projects. So let's drag this date down. Let's see, that project ends on the 2nd, which means this one needs to start on the 12th. And then this one we would drag down to the 4th. So now we've just changed the date by just dragging it around on the calendar. And we can do that again. So let's grab a copy of this VIP day and make a copy of that down here. So to do that with key commands, I'm going to press Option, or I think that's Alt on a PC, on my keyboard, and then I'm going to click and drag and put that on this day. So it has the same properties, but it has a different date. And right now, since no client is attached to it, that's totally fine. I'm going to double check that we get rid of Taylor on this one because she's not booking every single option. So clear that. Clear that. Okay, so from now on, when we make a copy of this, it won't have a client attached to the project. So let's do another copy of the VIP, and we'll do another copy of the VIP. And then we'll do another copy of the 3-week website, another copy of 2-week website, another copy of, you can see how quickly and easily this can get done, right? Grab the VIP, we're gonna grab 3-week project, gonna do another VIP. And now we're closed for Memorial Day. So I've put that in just as an example of how you can block dates off on your calendar, but you can experiment and see what it feels like to start a project a day late, or you can choose to close on the 24th instead and just put your project on the normal date. You run this business, so you can decide what you want to do. So I'm gonna make another copy of the VIP and another copy of the 3-week, copy of the VIP, copy of the 2-week. Let's see, what month are we in? July 2024. Okay, so copy, moving right along. Wrong one. Let's do undo. Oh, I just totally realized that I labeled it 3-week, but didn't actually give it 3 weeks. Do it correctly the first time, because now I'd have a whole lot of dragging around to fix that, but you know what I mean. Okay, 2-week, VIP, another VIP. Not thinking. Okay, let's grab the correct one. Here we go. Copy. There we go. So now what month are we in? November. So you might just want to do a couple of VIPs this month before Thanksgiving and then call it a day. What I typically like to do in my business is close for the last holidays of the year. So that includes Thanksgiving on to the end of the year, including New Year's, and then come back in early January. And this gives me typically 4-ish weeks where I can work on my business instead of in my business. Planning period, trying to batch things, clean up my systems, all that stuff. So the last projects I typically take are in mid-November. So that in just those short minutes, we have already planned our entire year. If we go back to the client database page, let's see, we have our client database down here. We have all of our projects listed here. So let's take a look. That's all the stuff that we just planned because we made copies of stuff that was already in existence and some of them were marked as booked. Let's do select all and deselect that one and make sure the availability says available on all of these. If you have a couple of these that are actually booked at the time where you're setting this up for yourself, you can bulk select and change properties together with this multitask toolbar thing at the top, similar to how you can do in ClickUp. So let's say the only one that we know are booked are these two. Stevie booked that second one and Taylor booked that first one. And all of the VIPs don't have a minimum price. The maximum is whatever you set. So if you want to change the amount for all of them, you can select this top box that's on the header row, and that will select everything in this group specifically. And then you can set the price max to, for example, $1,500 if you need to go up, or $800 if you need to go down. That's just example numbers. And when you do that, it will update the value in every field, but only in that section, not in these. So you can bulk edit really easily that way. To deselect, the easiest thing to do is just to click that multitask toolbar thing in blue and it will deselect it for you. So then when you have somebody else come in, let's say that Bob Ross wants to book a VIP day. So we come in and we pick from this field because this is going to list every client in that database. If you have more than shows up in this list, you can start typing and it will filter it down for you. So if we select Bob, then we've now assigned Bob to this one and we can make it booked. Okay, so let's see. Bob should have, yes, a VIP day. Stevie has the 2-week website. Taylor has a 3-week website. And if we click on any of these, we can see the actual project details. But we're not done yet. Let's take a look at what this looks like in practice for our potential clients now that we've got all of this set. So if we open up an incognito window, we can now see that the public view of this calendar, the link that we would give our clients, they will be able to start on today and look at what is booked in the calendar, so what's not available. You can also change that to say not available if booked seems like maybe not clear enough. And then all they have to do is click the little arrows over here to navigate through the list and see what is available. If they are curious, they can click on this and they can look at all of the extra information that is folded under this more properties thing. But the interesting thing about the public view of this is that they're not going to be able to see who we assigned to that project. Even though it's booked, we can't see the person that's tied to it because the public view does not include permissions or view access to the client address book. So that is my favorite part about this process. They can see all the pertinent information that they need to see. If they expand this, they'll see the ugly stuff, but it doesn't give away anything that's embarrassing or anything that is private to the client. So this is just the dates, just the project type, the price range even, so you don't even have to say again, like that spot is worth this price range. And if you're even more ready to make this process a little bit more efficient, you could potentially also add a embed block of your actual scheduler for these appointment types. So if we come down here to this available 3-week website that is actually only a 2-week website because of my monstrous error, we could potentially grab the embed link from Calendly and paste it in here, create embed instead of actually pasting, and then grab these side handles to expand the what's viewable. And then this is a little bit tricky, but you can grab this bottom handle and keep dragging it down until it stops expanding. That's as big as it can get on the page. So there we go. And this will actually allow you to include your scheduler inside the thing. So when you're giving your client the public view of the calendar. If they were to click on the thing, they could actually book a discovery call with you with the intention of getting this particular spot. This would work even better if you had different discovery calls for different types of projects. So this could be a discovery call specifically for custom websites, whereas the discovery call could be a different appointment type for VIP days, for example. That way, when they get scheduled on your actual calendar, you know which service the person has booked or which service the person is interested because of the appointment type that they actually booked. Now, to go a step further, you could make this a synced block. Let's do copy and then go back to this template and look at this one, which it doesn't have anything. If we paste in the same thing, it's going to ask me down here at the bottom, paste and sync. So click that, it turns into a synced block. So now all we have to do is copy, open this one, paste, and actually you have these arrows up here that go down or up in this database list. So if we go down one appointment, we can paste, down, paste, down, paste, down, paste. And you can see what's happening here is that we are populating a synced block with our embedded discovery call that will show up in the public view. So let's go back to this and let's go back to today and the first available. Now when this loads, it will also pull in my Calendly scheduler with the discovery call. So if they do open this, they could technically schedule the discovery chat for this appointment type. And because it's in a synced block with what we just set up, you can change this in one of these, any one of these that we've embedded, and it will update in all of them. So if you have to come back later and change your link, you can do it in one of the synced blocks and it will sync to the rest of the blocks. So it's a really easy way to put content in here that you want the client to be able to see in all of these. And you can do the same thing for these too. So that's just a thought or a pro tip that could be super useful. So now you have a system, right? You have a address book where your client information is. It will auto-populate the project they actually booked with you because this database talks to your calendar database. You can see it on a calendar. You can add your closed dates. So you could add a new one, closed for July 4th. That's Independence Day here in the US. We could even set the icon to be the no symbol just to make it really stand out. And then we could pick July, if I could spell 4th. And we can say not available. So you can add new dates in here pretty easily if you'd like. You can also create a template in here if you want to make sure that's the icon that is shown for new closures. Closed for, and then so you have the option to create a new entry with that. So you can see it applies the icon for you, it starts the title for you, and you don't have to set that. Status would be upcoming, so you would need to make sure that you add probably a status for that. But anyway, that would be the easy way to do that. You could do the same thing by creating a new template with the icon that you want and the name that you want for custom projects, VIP projects, one-on-one sessions, consulting, coaching, whatever your service actually is that you're using this calendar for. And you have your address book, you have your calendar system, you have the public view of this system that's going to automatically stay updated because this is a new view of your actual calendar that you're using for yourself. This would be the version you share with the client. It can't see the client information. You can when you're logged in, but in an incognito window, you can double check behind me. You won't be able to see that as long as that database is not public. So I hope that was really helpful for you. I know that feels probably a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're not familiar with Notion, but I promise Notion compared to other softwares like Asana and ClickUp and Monday, it's going to feel easy once you get the hang of the general idea or concept of how things work. And there, it's a glorified wiki system, note-taking databases, those kinds of things. So anyway, if you're unfamiliar with Notion or if you're already using ClickUp, I have a different video covering the project calendar and timeline, how I use it in my own business. It's a little bit different than the one that we went through today, but go check out that video next to see how I actually use it with my clients. So use this free template, customize it, make it yours, and I hope that it really helps you have a kick-ass 2024. That's all I have for you in this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye!